And then I go to Théun and I say, Théun, the parents are asking for something on teenagers. And he said, brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. That's the youth you're talking about. It's the next generation. Fantastic. I think we need to do teenage camps. What?
So it sounds, Elizabeth, like this was an opportunity for you to bring all of your experience throughout your life to bear. You're not only teaching, but it sounds like you're learning at the same time. Do these things go hand in hand? You mentioned intelligent cooperation earlier. What does that really mean?
And to answer your first question, there were many times that I'd actually experienced things in my life that didn't really mean anything at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit of a restless soul, so I was forever looking here and going there and checking this out or what have you, and really just getting I think I lived my life in extremes.
Yes.
It wasn't enough to have a career. I had to be a workaholic. It wasn't enough to start road running. I had to then go and run marathons and Comrades Marathon, which is 90 kilometers. So everything was done in extremes. If I was going to go into the male world, I would go and try and be the best male I could possibly be.
Yes.
I couldn't understand why it never worked, but anyway, because try as much as I did, I was only ever a second-rate male.
Yes.
But as I started to run these courses, and I was getting people from all walks of life. They could be executives, they could be house executives or home executives, as housewives like to call themselves. It could be teachers, it could be psychologists, it could be anybody really. Mm-hmm. People who were into healing. From all walks of life they came. And what I really started to find quite amazing was that, because, as Théun said to me up front, you can only teach if you teach from your own experience.
Yes.
I suddenly started to see all sorts of reasons as to why I'd done the things that I'd done and where I'd been to. Particularly the extremes of my life. Mm-hmm. That if I was going to be a doormat in a relationship, I was going to be the best doormat I could be.
Okay.
If I was going to be a second-rate male in the business world, I was going to be the ultimate second-rate male. I had all these extremes, but as I started to share my experiences with people, let's say, for example, in romantic relationships, I was able to work with the doormats. Mm-hmm. I was able to work with the people who were struggling in terms of marriages or whatever it was, or those people with children. So every bit of experience I seem to have found suddenly starts to take on a meaning, yes, which it never had before.
Yes.
As people would pour forth the teachings.
Right.
And with that, of course, yeah, I just found that it was inevitable that I had to grow, because I had all these people pushing me. There's no way that I could tread water or fall asleep in any way whatsoever. And if I ever became complacent in any way whatsoever, I could prop somebody to wake me up, but you know, in a big way.
Yes.
So, to then lead on into intelligent cooperation.
Yes.
Well, I've just given myself an answer in a sense, in terms of intelligent cooperation with myself.
Right.
Because in working with all those experiences of mine, I could start to see that I think I've been really intellectual for a long time.
Mm-hmm. You mean in the mind?
Yes, pretty much working out of the mind.
Okay.
I've been trained as a chartered accountant. Mm-hmm. You know, how much more of a structure can there be than that?
Yes.
And then my whole pathway through the corporate world and what have you was very much intellectual.
Okay.
And because I think when I started to bring the heart aspect into it, the world of the male wasn't really all that receptive to it.
Right, I'm sure.
So, you know, after a while, if you've been invalidated long enough, you actually just don't bring up the new anymore. And so instead of probably adapting to the ways of the male, I just adopted their ways.
Right.
And also then became intellectual, and it's quite a cage.
Right.
It's really a cage to live in, and I could see that because at one stage I was working with gangsters, and they were just all hot, and they just lapped up the teachers. I mean, they just opened their heart and it just said hello to them. You know? They didn't have to go through my analysis paralysis to get there.
Right.
So I found that we teach best what we need to learn the most.
Yes.
And I need to learn relationships in a big way. That as all my experiences in my life started to come out through the courses, I started to find that I could start to express from my heart again. Everything that I'd intellectualized up until then sort of started to sink from here to here.
Right.
And that's first and foremost the intelligent cooperation between one's heart and mind. And then it flows from there to the intelligent cooperation between males and females, between males and males, because in the corporate world males were also competing against each other instead of with each other. In the courses I actually give a practical demonstrations of how intelligent cooperation works.
Right.
But it's very much that relationship between the mind and the heart.
Okay.
So I just find that if ever I get into a place of conflict, it's because if it's two of us and we get into a place of conflict, it's because we intellectualize it. And then the trick then is to just fall quiet and say, okay, how are we really feeling about this?
Yes.
What's that gut feel? What do we really feel? What's the heart saying here? And once we fall quiet and we go there, then the answers, the solutions start to come very naturally and in quite a magic way, actually.
Okay.
Quite a magic way.
That sounds wonderful. It sounds like the courses are helping people to actually find their hearts and to be able to work from that place.
The whole approach is to help them to help themselves.
Right.
And I think we've so lost touch with what our hearts are really telling us. It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge right now in this world.
Okay.
To wake people up to what are your hearts really telling you,
Yes.
instead of this analysis paralysis.